It was the coldest night of the year. Train station was almost empty. No announcements, no crowd, just silence and breath turning into fog. He was a millionaire rancher, a man who owned miles of land but walked alone. As he passed the last platform, he suddenly stopped, because near the bench, under a flickering light, a young nurse stood there, shivering, her hands shaking, holding a small medical bag like it was the only thing she had left. People walked past her. No one looked twice. He almost did the same. But then their eyes met, and in that single second, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. This was the moment he could walk away, or make one choice that would change both of their lives forever. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. All he knew was that no one should be standing alone in the cold like that, especially not someone whose hands were meant to save lives. She was a nurse, exhausted, forgotten. The last train had already left. Her phone battery was dead, and the hospital where she worked had delayed her pay for months. She wasn't waiting for anyone anymore. She was just trying to stay awake, trying not to fall apart. The rancher stood there, watching from a distance. A man who had everything money could buy, but nothing that kept him warm at night. He had survived betrayals. He had learned to trust numbers, not people. Yet something about her silence felt familiar. Maybe because loneliness looks the same on everyone, he took one step forward, then stopped. Because some meetings feel accidental. But later, you realize they were never random at all. Before the story goes any further, make sure you're subscribed, because stories like this aren't just about love. They're about timing, choices, and the moments that quietly shape who we become. And this moment was only the beginning. From the outside, his life looked perfect. Acres of land stretching beyond the horizon, a ranch that had turned into an empire, accounts filled with numbers most people never see in a lifetime. People called him lucky. Some called him ruthless. Others whispered that he had no heart left. But no one ever asked him how quiet his house felt at night. Every evening followed the same routine. Dinner alone. A glass of whiskey untouched on the table. The sound of boots echoing in rooms built for more than one person. He had learned early that success demands sacrifice. First it took his youth, then his marriage, and eventually his peace. He told himself it was worth it. That loneliness was a small price to pay for control. Yet some nights, he caught himself staring at the old photographs. A younger man. A softer smile. A time before money replaced meaning. He trusted his horses more than people now. Animals didn't lie. And something else quietly stirred. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't looking at what he owned. He was looking at someone who reminded him of everything he had lost. She stood near the far end of the platform, where the lights were dimmer and people rarely stopped. Her coat was too thin for the cold. Her hands trembled, not dramatically, just enough to notice if someone cared to look. But no one was waiting for her. No family rushing forward. No voice calling her name. No warmth promised at the end of her journey. She had learned how to disappear in plain sight. Years of night shifts had taught her that. Quiet footsteps, soft apologies, endless giving without expecting anything back. She was a nurse, the kind who stayed after her shift ended, who held hands when machines went silent, who whispered comfort to strangers taking their final breaths. Yet when her own world collapsed, there was no one there to hold her. The hospital had downsized. The apartment lease ended. The relationship she thought would last faded the moment she needed support. So she packed what little she had, bought the cheapest ticket available, and told herself that starting over was better than breaking down. The cold seeped into her bones, but it wasn't what hurt the most. It was the realization that if she vanished that night, no one would come looking. She pulled her scarf tighter, lowered her eyes, and waited not for a train, but for the strength to keep going. And that's when she felt it. A presence, not pity, it's not curiosity, attention. When she looked up, she met the eyes of a man who had everything yet looked like he was searching for something he couldn't name. Two strangers, both standing at the edge of lives they no longer recognized. Neither of them knew it yet, but the cold wasn't the only thing about to change. He should have walked away. Every part of his life had been built on logic, measured risks, calculated decisions, outcomes that made sense on paper. Stopping for a stranger at a train station didn't fit that world. And yet his feet didn't move. Something about the way she stood there, not asking, not hoping, just enduring, unsettled him. He had seen desperation before. This was different. This was quiet surrender. He told himself it was nothing, just empathy, just a moment. But moments had never followed him like this one did. He asked a simple question, almost casually, as if it meant nothing at all. "Are you okay?" She looked surprised, not because of the words, but because someone had finally noticed. Her answer was careful, polite, the kind people give when they don't want to be a burden. "I will be," she said. That should have been the end of it. Instead, he offered coffee, then warmth, then time. None of it made sense. He didn't know her name, her past, her plans. All he knew was that walking away felt heavier than staying. They sat across from each other in silence. Two lives from opposite worlds, sharing a table meant for strangers passing through. She spoke slowly, choosing her words like they mattered. Not asking for help, not telling a sob story, just existing honestly. And with every sentence, something inside him shifted. This wasn't attraction, it wasn't charity, it was recognition. He saw in her the exhaustion he'd been hiding from himself, the cost of always being strong, the loneliness success never warned him about. When the announcement echoed through the station, she stood to leave. That was the moment logic screamed the loudest. Let her go. This isn't your responsibility. But instead, he said the one thing he hadn't planned, the one thing that changed everything. "Where are you going?" She hesitated, then answered honestly. "Anywhere that will take me." And in that instant, a man who owned everything realized he was about to make the most illogical decision of his life, not because it was smart, but because it felt right. They didn't call it a beginning. Beginnings are loud. This wasn't. It started with small, ordinary things, the kind no one notices until they matter. Morning light through a kitchen window, 2 cups on the counter instead of 1. Silence that felt safe instead of empty. She stayed longer than planned, not because she asked to, but because he never told her she had to leave. There were no promises. No dramatic conversations about the future. Just days that flowed into each other, quietly stitching something new together. She helped where she could. He learned how little he actually needed. For the first time in years, success wasn't the center of his life. It became background noise. What mattered was the way she hummed while making coffee. The way she listened not to reply, but to understand. The way laughter returned without effort. She didn't try to fix him. He didn't try to save her. They met each other where they were, tired, cautious, still healing. Some nights they talked until the stars faded. Other nights they said nothing at all. And somehow that was enough. She began to smile differently, softer, steadier. He slept better than he had in years. It wasn't love the way stories sell it. It was slower, quieter, real. One evening, standing together as the sun dropped behind the land, he realized something that surprised him. He wasn't afraid anymore, not of losing control, not of opening his life, not of needing someone. 2 lives hadn't collided. They had simply aligned. And without making a sound, without announcing themselves to the world, they began again. They never told anyone the exact moment it became love, because there wasn't one. No grand confession. No dramatic promise under the stars, just a quiet understanding that formed over time. One night, as the house settled into silence, she asked softly, "Do you ever regret stopping that night?" He didn't answer right away, looked at her, really looked, and realized how different his life felt now. Not bigger, not richer, just fuller. "I regret the years I didn't know this kind of peace," he said. She smiled, not the fragile smile from the station, but one built on safety. They didn't fix each other. They didn't erase the past. They chose to move forward without running from who they were. Some love stories don't begin with fireworks. They begin with kindness, with noticing, with choosing to stay when it would be easier to walk away. If this story reminded you that love doesn't always arrive loudly, that sometimes it waits quietly for the right moment, then you already understand why this mattered. If you're still here, thank you for listening. And if you believe slow, real love still exists, leave a comment and tell me what you felt most. Don't forget to subscribe for more true emotional stories like this. Sometimes the quietest stories stay with us the longest.